Good evening, alums. My name is Vijay Krishnarayan, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this launch of the London chapter of the Oxford Brookes Alumni Network. There are chapters in every country in the world, well, nearly, but this is one of the first to be launched in the UK. Thank you for signing up and also for making time to join us this evening. Our programme for the next hour or so aims to introduce the chapter to you, set out our ambitions, and explain the approach that we'll be taking. There'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions, so please use the chat facility and we can pick some of those up at the end. We want to start with a message from the university, and I'd like to introduce Molly Ashley, Alumni Engagement Manager at Brookes. Molly.
Hello, hi. It's great to see so many of you here today virtually. So I'm the Alumni Manager at Brookes, and we've got a nice message from our VC, Professor Alistair Fitt, who would like to firstly welcome you from the university's point of view. So I'll let it roll and talk to you afterwards. Thank you.
Welcome to this virtual chapter launch. This event is intended to be the first of many, as the volunteer committee will explain in a moment. They've already come up with some ideas for further events, which they will share with you today. If you'd like to get involved by being a guest speaker or suggesting activities, please don't hesitate to get in touch with them. We want you to make the most of this chapter. It gives you the opportunity to connect and support each other. We want you all to feel that you can make a difference to each other and be part of a community by forging some great connections. The chapter is one of the first of its kind in that it's based in the UK. Up to this point, we've seen the growth of chapters internationally, collecting alumni once they've left Brookes and perhaps returned to their home countries. The establishment of this chapter and others like it across the UK comes at a time when connection and fellowship couldn't be more important wherever you're based in the world. I want to thank the alumni who've helped launch this chapter with the support of my colleagues in the Alumni Office. From the university's perspective, we value greatly the importance of maintaining links with you, whether it's through joining our mentoring program or acting as ambassadors for the university. We'll be working closely with the chapter to try to find ways of making Brookes' assets and opportunities available to the network. So thank you for joining us tonight, and please enjoy the evening.
Molly, did you want to say something about the work of the Alumni Office?
Yes. So again, going back to the Alumni Office, we're a small team at Brookes based in Headington, and we're sitting in part of a marketing communications directorate in an alumni and development team all around the world. As Vijay mentioned, we have 130,000 alumni and they're in around 118 countries. We run a lot of different programs. One of them is around the engagement volunteer groups, the chapters. We also run a lot of events for recent graduates. So if you've graduated 3 years after you've left Brookes, we have a special targeted program for you, the younger sort of, or recent graduates, not always younger, sometimes they're career changers. And we also run webinars, and we also facilitate volunteering for our alumni to come back and help with the students, and if they're mid-career, maybe back with the recent grads. And we also facilitate widening participation scholarships particularly. So around the chapter, we were very excited for these two. We've got Oxford and London, the first UK chapters to be set up. And Vijay is taking the chapter from strength to strength with the committee, Maud, Vijay, Nyan, and also Ed, who I believe is listening. We've got the rest of the chapter will introduce themselves in the next slide. And nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Molly. Dylan, can we have the next slide, please? So I said that we wanted to introduce ourselves as a committee. So the chapter's run by a group of volunteers, and this committee that we've formed is aiming to navigate the next 12 months or so. I'm going to ask Nyan, Maud, and Ed to introduce themselves by giving you a highlight from their time at Brookes and letting you know what their role is on the committee. I'll start. My name is Vijay Krishnarayan. I got both my degrees at the college, the first one when it was the Poly, and that was back in 1986. Wow. I've been asked by the university to be the chapter lead, and that's a great privilege for me. My highlight from Brookes is obviously meeting my future wife on the first day of term at Cheney. But apart from that, it's the unforgettable Pogues gig at the SU bar in 1985. Boy, they were really loud. Anyway, Nyan, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Nyan Amer. I'm part of the volunteer committee. I attended Brookes from 2002 to 2005. It seems like a long time ago, but I can't really compare to the experience that Vijay has at Brookes. I studied cell and molecular biology whilst I was there in my 3 years. Had a great time, loved every minute of it. My highlight, I suppose, was amassed across 3 years in actual fact of being at Brookes. I was honoured and lucky enough to play for Oxford Brookes Rugby Club. So I spent 3 years travelling and training with a lot of different players, which have stayed, great friends of mine. And it was always a highlight to go to other universities, of which the most anticipated and exciting was going to Iffley Road in Oxford to play Oxford University. It was the local derby, and always I have fond memories of stepping out on the pitch at that time, and that's what I hold most dearly. Over to you, Maud.
Hi everyone, so I'm Maud. I graduated with a master degree in international business, culture and languages in 2017. And I think what I will remember the most from my time at Brookes is the wealth of opportunity through social events to create long-lasting friendships.
Now, I understand that due to technical difficulties, we might not be able to get Ed on camera. Ed is our comms officer. And if you want to know more about each of us, you can look at the alumni page on the university website. And there's a brief biography of each of us there. So you'll be able to get more details on us there. Next slide, please, Dylan. Nyan, would you talk us through our objectives?
Indeed, I can. Thanks, Vijay. So, as mentioned, the London chapter is a new addition to the Oxford Brookes alumni. Molly, Anne and the alumni team identified this based on the fact that there are up to 15,000 Brookes alumni living in and around London. The ambition of the chapter is to bring together this London collective of alumni to help members make contact and engage or re-engage with each other, but also to foster a community environment for broader objectives, of which we hope to develop the alumni experience for our members, working with you to offer collaborative opportunities for career and personal networking, but also to offer a way for you to continue your own professional development. as mentioned, we want to work actively with you as our members and to promote volunteer opportunities and engagement opportunities when the country and business opens up a little bit more. And we're speaking with our members and via surveys, which I think Vijay is going to talk a little bit more about later. But we hope to create opportunities for these members in the London chapter to re-engage with the alumni and with each other. The next 2 points I think are very timely and have a similar goal in mind, and that is for the chapter to identify fundraising opportunities that resonate with us all. But I think, however, I think we're in a position in this uncertain time to also be able as members to offer each other support. And I think if members have the opportunity to contribute, especially if you are in a position of employability or to offer employability or advice about getting back on the employment ladder, I think that there is, this is something that we want to identify and encourage. If you have opportunities to offer recent graduates recruitment opportunities, this is something, as I mentioned, we want to know about. And I would encourage you to stay in touch, reach out to us. This is just a broad overview of what we're trying to do with the chapter, but we are only as strong as our members and their participation in the chapter. So please stay in touch. I'm sure this won't be the last time I say this or any of us say this, but keep an eye out on our LinkedIn page. If you're not following it, please do. And we will keep you updated about how the chapter is moving forward, progressing, and how we hope to engage with you moving forward. Back to you, Vijay. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nyan. Dylan, can we have the next slide, please? Now, one of the things that's driving us, in fact, I would say the thing that's underpinning all of this, is our intent to make the chapter useful to you as alums. And to do that, we're committed to being responsive to needs that you've identified. We teamed up with our colleagues at the Oxford chapter, Molly made mention of that at the outset, which is also launching soon, to conduct a survey of alums in our areas, to gauge what your expectations are and what your preferences are for the way in which we conduct ourselves and the kinds of activities that we'll be putting on. We got over 200 responses to the survey, and this is what you told us. Next slide, please, Dylan. We asked what kind of activities you'd like the chapter to organise, and the top answers fell into two categories, essentially work and play. On the work side, 33% of you said that networking events focused on a particular sector or career path would be your preference. That's what you'd like to see us focus on. Also on the work side, 28% of you said events that helped with your professional development in some way. On the play side, 23% said get-togethers that were focused around a particular activity, walking, hiking, sports, that kind of thing. There was also interest, 15% of you, in less focused social activities and more general networking over a drink, say. Next slide, please, Dylan. We wanted to hear from you on the kind of scale that would work best for our activities, sensing that sometimes in larger events, you can get lost in the crowd. This next set of questions showed that you agreed with us and expressed a preference for either medium-sized or small-sized get-togethers. So medium-sized up to 75 people or small events up to 25. Next slide, please, Dylan. We asked what time of the day and week you'd like to see events happen. You prefer activities that happen during the week, so school nights are okay, and perhaps at weekends, though that was a less popular option. You can see at the bottom of that slide the caveats, the concerns that you have around the timings of the particular events. Next slide, please, Dylan. Next, and this is the last slide on the survey results, a question on taxonomy. What basis would you like to connect or reconnect with other alums? You wanted to be in touch with people that were on your course primarily, and then with those that graduated in the same year that you did. Now we've taken all this information and turned it into a plan, and Maud will now give you the top lines from that and a taste of things to come. Next slide, please, Dylan. Maud.
Thank you, Vijay. So following the results we received from the survey and as well the people who agreed to be guest speakers, we have created an action plan. What we did is we identified key topics to organize our event around. So as you can see, the topics we have identified so far are about professional development, business advice, general interest, education, and social events. The first 4 topics are more generic, not industry specific. So it means that anyone can attend these events. For the social events, we are going to organize them around the work industry or the courses you have taken at Brookes. With the current situation, for the time being, we cannot do face-to-face meetings, so all our events will be online. As you can see, we have created an action plan for the 2 first quarters of 2021. We did this because we would like to have your feedback after 6 months of events. So we want to ensure that we are meeting with your expectations. We are committed to organize 1 event per month minimum. And our next event will be in January, and it will be around entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Maud. So that brings us to the close of the formal presentations from us, your committee members. We wanted to set some time aside for questions. And one of those, I think, picks up on the point that Maud made in her presentation. When will we be able to, the question is, when will we be able to get back together again? And well, the straightforward answer is when it's safe to do so. We're monitoring the situation quite closely, but in planning our events, the committee, we're thinking quite a lot about what's possible within the current situation. As soon as we're able to and restrictions are lifted, we will be switching and changing gear. But we didn't want the current constraints to stop us from launching and getting on with meeting a need. One thing you can say about the current crisis is that it's brought home to us the ever more pressing need for mechanisms like this chapter to help us to connect and feel a sense and feel a part of a community that we can draw support from. So we're going to plow on with our first few events that will take us possibly through to February or March virtually, and then we'll be looking to consider face-to-face, depending on the guidance that's available. In all of these things, of course, we refer to the university and the guidance and preferences that they're adhering to as well. So that's the answer to that question. There's another question on how people can get involved in the work of the chapter. Now, one of the considerations for us in planning the events has been the willingness of alums to actually take up the space, take up the opportunity. We're a small voluntary outfit, and so we rely quite heavily on alums coming forward to play their part, to volunteer, to come up with their ideas for a particular activity or as a speaker at one of our events. In the next slide, you'll see an email address, and this email address is london-alumni@brookes.net. If you send an email to that address, as a committee, we'll look and see how we can accommodate you, and maybe group you with another set of students and alums and speakers from the university that perhaps we can organise an event around. There's a question about benefits and how we might extend benefits to members of the chapter. Now, that is something that I believe maybe Nyan will be considering. It's his corner of the chapter map. Nyan, I'm not sure whether you've given any consideration or had any thoughts about that to date. Perhaps you might want to express a view on how feasible that is, or how we might go about that.
I think, yeah, definitely we're going to be open to looking at our membership, who makes the collective, who make up the London chapter, and then also reaching out to them and understanding what they might be able to offer other alumni, or how they can work with the alumni to offer group opportunities for us to host when we get back to an open opportunity to meet, whether we can host at different venues, host meetings or gatherings. And yeah, I'm more than open to having conversations with anyone who's a member of the chapter who can help us in that process. As mentioned by Vijay, drop us an email, follow us on the LinkedIn page, or reach out to us on LinkedIn individually, get in touch, and then we can take it from there and we'll have a conversation.
Lovely. In my answer to the when are we going to get a chance to get together face to face, I think we're also discovering the possibilities of virtual events, and we want to test some of those to see how we can make the most of Zoom, of Teams, the new way of transacting business, to inject some life into the chapter. So it's a large region. London it's a lot of distance to cover, so there might be some opportunities afforded by working virtually as well. So that might continue to be a significant strand of the work that we do, even when things get back to normal, whatever that means. There's a question about continuous professional development, and you'll recall in the survey I highlighted that was a strong theme in your responses. Molly, I wonder if I could ask you to say a little bit perhaps about the ways in which maybe other chapters have engaged with this. I don't think we're the only chapter that will have expressed a preference or an interest in continuous professional development. Could you give us an insight from other chapters, Molly?
Yeah, so there's one side of it which is something that we run quite regularly from the central team, which the London alumni will be open to participate in, because it's open to everybody, which are the career sessions, which are run 3 times a year, around soft skills, around CV writing, LinkedIn work, volunteering, micro volunteering. So those will be fed through your chapter, but will be organised with the central team, me and Dylan. So those are 3 times a year, usually around the January, June, and then sort of mid-September. So they're a series. The CPD, as in specific to the needs of the groups, to tell you the truth, it's developed very specifically for each region, and because you are the first 2 UK groups, it will be specific to your group's needs. For example, we've got connections in other countries, say with the ACCA board of the ACCA alumni, and they would want a specific thing maybe around the accountancy, and we might have some local boards which could do some presenting to them. There's lots of opportunities and different things for the London alums, but it's quite a big piece as well. So I would look at, you know, if you've got some specific needs and enough people write into the chapter, that would be a way forward. Or if you've got a connection with a professional connection already with some another body, that maybe with REBA or, you know, with the architectural bodies, there are some central bodies where we have connections and we could take those forwards. But if you actually email the London email, that would be the first step, because then we'd know there's a demand for it. That's a longish answer, but I think that's probably the best way for London alums to put forward if you would like something specific, and then we can try and match that. If enough people want something specific, we can take that forward.
Thanks a lot, Molly. Gives a good insight. I think the other thing to say from a chapter point of view is, because we are small, we're keen on doing things in partnership with others that are already in this space. So we know that there are alums organising on the basis of professional interest or sector, and partnering with them to work with the university to secure resource people, and design activities that meet this CPD need. I think that's a way forward for us as well. There's clearly quite a lot of interest in how the chapter can support professional development, and that's reflected, as I said, in the survey results. But there's also quite a lot of interest in how the chapter can help each of us with our own career development more generally. You know, this is a time when some of us are thinking about changing career paths, and so, you know, we've been thinking about that quite a lot as a chapter, and you'll see from Maud's presentation that that's probably why we've chosen professional development and career planning and personal development as the theme for our first activities. But if there are other issues that we can address in this area, please let us know if there's interest. And indeed, if you're a resource person or willing to lead a session in that realm, please do let us know sooner rather than later, so we can fit it in with these first few steps that we're taking. I'm not sure that there are any other questions, so I'm going to move us on to the next slide, please, Dylan. So we've talked a bit about the fact that we're relying as a committee, chapter committee, on your input, and you'll see here the email address that we're encouraging you to use to express an interest in getting involved, putting forward your ideas for activities, volunteering as a speaker at one of the events, offering a venue, offering to organise something or coordinate something with your particular year group. Please use that email address to let us know. We've talked a lot about the LinkedIn group, and you'll see here that there's a link that if you click on that link, that hyperlink there, you'll go through to the LinkedIn group. We've got, I think, 165 members at the moment that are subscribed to the LinkedIn group, and that's growing all the time. So please use that facility as a way of connecting. Let's use that as a platform to connect with each other and have a further discussion on our plans. Next slide, please, Dylan. So we'll leave you with this slide. Maud, do you want to say a little bit more about the next event?
Sure. So as we said, the next event is going to be on professional development. We have been in touch with guest speakers who were willing to talk about this topic. We are, for the moment, still organizing and planning. What we want to do is to have a quick chat with the guest speakers, and then we will send a more detailed agenda of the event regarding entrepreneurship. So like we said, stay in touch. We will be posting on LinkedIn.
Thanks very much, Maud. So colleagues, that brings us to the end of the official launch. You know, we've cut the ribbon. we can raise a glass and set the chapter on its way. It only remains for me to thank my fellow committee members, Molly and Anne from the Alumni Office, and Dylan for working behind the scenes to make this event happen. But most of all, thanks to you. Thanks for signing up, for tuning in, and turning the chapter into something that we can all feel good about. Thank you very much and good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.